So this episode is sponsored by Bomberstrap. Bomberstrap is a company that makes tailgate-specific bike racks for mountain bikes. I say racks, but it's realistically like a tailgate pad. Plenty of companies make tailgate pads, but Bomberstrap makes one that is individual, right? So like this is what it looks like. If you're looking at the video side, you can see what the strap looks like. It holds an individual bike. They do make a 2-part one as well, but the idea is that it doesn't block your backup camera for trucks that have backup cameras, which if you have a newer truck has a backup camera, and your tailgate pad, traditional tailgate pad, blocks it. Bomberstrap fixes that issue. It's basically like an over padded strap that holds your bike down. Basically the front wheel hangs off of the tailgate, gets strapped down by this lower strap here, and the top tube, or the down tube rather, gets held on by this upper strap. One of the reasons that I like this product, and one of the reasons that I actually reached out to them to sponsor, is because it's unique in the sense that they make just straps, right? They're not a company that makes bike racks. They're not focused on anything else except making one product and making it really well. It is super overbuilt. This pad is thick, and the little attachment piece is actually, this is probably my favorite part. This, what would you call this even?
Machined aluminum.
Well, no, it's basically like the little clip that you ratchet down. It's a ratchet basically. Duh, that's what it's called. I use ratchets all the time. It's a ratchet basically, but it's just super overbuilt and it holds down the strap really well. So you get a tight fit to the back of your tailgate. Pretty much any mountain bike fits in there super comfortably. There's 2 straps on the lower parts. Your fork's being held well. Super soft on the inside, so if you end up on the fork stanchions, it doesn't harm it at all. Stylish. We got this dope camo color sent in us, and I'm really into it. They're on sale right now. They've got a good deal, good promo going on their website. They can get these things for $69. So it's definitely worth checking out. I think there's a specific customer that needs it, but if you are that specific customer, you should have one. It's straight up the best option. There's no other reason to have a full tailgate pad. I have a full tailgate pad at home, and I'm just straight up never going to use it again, unless I need to carry 100 bikes and just stack them on top of each other, for a bike swap or something. You will not see that thing on my car again or on my truck again, because this is just simpler, right? And it literally took me 2 seconds to install it and 2 seconds to take it off. And that's why I think there's some real potential with a product like this, right? It holds down your bike well. It does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it does it really well. So check out Bomberstrap. Follow Bomberstrap on social media. They're on Facebook and on Instagram. It's at Bomberstrap. Check out bomberstrap.com for more information. Let us know that we sent you. It's definitely a thing that I think people need to know about, straight up. I didn't even know it existed until I reached out. I saw it and I was like, this is cool. And that's I'm sponsored by this company opinion, kind of. Yes, they're a sponsor of the show. Yes, I'm supposed to say nice things about them. I don't really always say nice things. Fischer gave me that boot that we're going to talk about, and I can tell you right now that I didn't say all nice things about that, I really like this product. Is there things that there's just, I think the reason that I like it so much is that there's nothing that really is like it right now. And it's built really well. And I think I have kind of an affinity towards things that are just built specifically right, companies that make one thing and they make it really well. So check out Bomberstrap. I won't waste your time too much of that. Enjoy the episode coming up on some ski boot stuff. I know it doesn't really make sense. We're mixing bike and ski, but who cares? Thanks, guys. So today we're going to do kind of a gear talk episode, mostly based on ski boots, men's ski boots to be specifically, and even more specifically, men's ski boots with walk modes. A lot of this stuff is going to be brand new, completely redesigned stuff from this upcoming season. So it'll be kind of like a little gear preview and less of a gear talk. I guess it's still kind of a gear talk, but so the idea basically is that we'll go through a few of the boots that are going to be super popular that you're going to see a lot of press on over the next few months as we start gearing up towards ski season. I figure it's a good time to start doing it since everybody seems to be itching now that we're getting closer to August. It's wild that we're already in August almost. By the time this comes out, we will be in August, and like it's insane that this summer's pretty much gone at this point. Feels like the nights are getting colder. I think that's kind of not gonna be how it goes for a while. I think it's gonna definitely kick back up another notch, and then we'll be screaming that it's too hot in October and September and all that. But anyway, so yeah, we're going to talk about a few different boots. We'll talk about some of the norms in those boots. We'll talk about, what some of the main criteria in boots, what we look for, what determines if a boot fits you or not. We'll talk about flex and what flex actually means. We'll talk about comparisons between a couple different boots. We'll also talk about a couple questions that I've gotten over the last couple weeks in regards to the ski industry, the bike industry, some follow-up questions that I've had on Bronson and 5010 since that last little bit that we did. Kind of preview some episodes that are going to be coming in the next month to 2 months. Just so you guys kind of have an idea of what's coming down the pipeline. We'll definitely start gearing up more and more and more once we start getting towards ski season. I know I said this was a ski and bike podcast, but I'm definitely still kind of partial to the ski side of it. That's where I started doing most of my stuff. It's just what, it's like the first thing that you ever really get into, that's kind of what ski is for me as opposed to the bike side. I really like the bike side and it's something that I do all the time, but it's probably has to do with me being injured too. Like that makes me look forward to skiing even more. So I'm excited. And I hope that'll show. So why don't we just jump into it? So we're going to talk about we'll talk about 3 boots, the Tecnica 0G, the Full Tilt Ascendant, and the Fischer Ranger, which is the boot that I brought with me. I've skied all 3 of these boots. I actually I lied. I didn't ski the 0G yet. I skied the Ascendant and I skied the Ranger Free. Ranger Free was actually one of the last boots that I skied on. And so they all have pluses and minuses. They all have a specific customer they're kind of geared towards. So why don't we'll start with the boot that I have with me, since that's probably the easiest to talk about. So we've kind of mentioned this one in a past episode pretty early on, like we just briefly touched on it, but we'll dive into it a little bit more. Basically, the idea with the Ranger series is it's like all mountain exploration kind of, and that goes with the skis too. It's basically for everyone, and that's like I know that doesn't make any sense kind of, and it's like what everybody says every boot and every ski is for, right? You want that one boot quiver, that one ski quiver, like you want something that's comfortable doing everything. The idea with the Ranger series is definitely just that. Is that you can just do whatever you want with it. You can take it all mountain, you can bomb groomers, you can take it out in the backcountry and hike around a bit. You can do slack country stuff with it. I mean, we're kind of talking about the high end side of things. So obviously the boots boots and skis for that matter become a little bit more versatile once you start getting to that high end. I mean, obviously you're spending a ton of money. Just as an FYI, I told myself I wasn't going to swear this episode, so we'll see how long I can actually last doing that. My mom yelled at me the other day because she found out that I was swearing on podcast episodes, and then so she got a little mad at me. But so I promised my mom I wouldn't swear on this episode. So shouts out to my mom. But yeah, so back to this. The idea with this boot is that you can do whatever you want with it, pretty much. There's a few specific technologies that we'll kind of dive into with it that make it a little more unique. For Fischer, this is actually the first boot that I like for myself. They've had boots that I thought were really cool. Like I think the Curve is a really cool boot. I think it fits phenomenal. For somebody that has that kind of foot, I've kind of got a fat foot. Like my instep is really high. My navicular bone, that bone like on the inside of your foot, that kind of protrudes on everybody's foot, is definitely kind of pokey in mine, on my foot. So the really narrow boots don't tend to work for me. I mean, I can do a lot of work and make them work, but those 95, 96, 97 last boots, just they're kind of a tough squeeze even after some boot work. And a lot of times like people talk about boot work like it's the end all be all. The best thing to do always, and I tell people this when I'm fitting boots all the time, the best thing to do always is to get the boot that fits you closest that you can, right? Like out of the box. You don't want to have to do boot work. I mean, great that you can do boot work. Great that you have a guy that'll do boot work or a girl that'll do boot work for you. But the most important thing is to have something that fits good out of the box, and then you can fine tune it. No boot's going to be perfect, I don't think, for anybody. I mean, there's thousands of boots out there. Maybe not thousands, but there's probably 1,000 boots out there. And any one of them could work for any given person, depending on what their criteria is for selecting a boot. And I guess before we talk even this boot or any of these boots specifically, we probably should mention some of the criteria that people look for, right? So people usually look for, the important things that people look for in a boot are last, which refers to the forefoot width of the boot. Flex, which usually determines either how it's the stiffness of the boot, basically, is what flex is. And that's basically determined by either how heavy you are, how aggressive you are, or to an extent, how good of a skier you are, I guess. But it's mostly the main two. Beyond that, the only other things that people really look for are fit, and for some people, fit's a really general term. We see a lot of people with heel pocket issues, right? Like I have that issue too, where like my heel always slides in and out of that pocket. There's ways to fix that for sure, but like I said, it's better to find something out of the box that feels really good or even feels okay or better than the rest, and then just build off of that, because you can always make adjustments. If you have a decent boot fitter, he or she can make those tweaks as necessary. And then it's, boots are definitely a little more personalized in that sense. Obviously, weight is important to people. Nobody really wants a tank of a boot. I mean, with race boots, yeah, they're definitely a bit heavier. You want some beef in that boot, I guess. Especially going the speeds that they're going, especially like when you're really, really cranking it and you really need to lay an edge down hard, there is definitely some value in having some added weight. It doesn't need to be the heaviest boot on the wall in order for it to ski well, and that's definitely not what that means, but it should have some weight to it. And then the inverse, if you're climbing all the time, like if you're going uphill or you're just spending all day in your boots, you don't want them to weigh 1,000,000 pounds because it's tiring. Even if your legs are super strong, there's just no reason to do it. I mean, would you want to walk around all day with ankle weights on just because you could? I mean, I don't think so. If you do, then you're probably an idiot, but idiot's not a swear. And that's the majority of what I think people look for in boots. Obviously, you start getting down to like the real nitty gritty stuff. Like people will talk about shell materials. People will talk about like pre-punched out areas. They'll talk about different liner quality, different types of liner. I mean, there's so many different boot sole norms, which is another super annoying thing that the ski industry and Marker specifically has decided to do. Marker and Rossi. I guess I can't just blame Marker because I don't really like Marker. How about that? Did you see that Kingpin thing? It's pretty great. So Kingpins got recalled. 17, 18 Marker Kingpins, which is like their touring pin binding, got recalled. And like I went on a couple, like I like don't usually go on forums, but somebody had suggested like to go on some of the forums, and I even went on one on New Schoolers, and on the forum it's like, my ski shop told me all along this was a terrible binding, and that it's not like, and I agree, man. Like I don't like that binding. This isn't a podcast about bindings, and we're not going to spend too much time on this, but I wasn't happy to see it, but I was interested to see it because like I've been into ski shops a bunch, my own and other ski shops and at the shows. And really the only people that really like that Marker Kingpin binding are customers that aren't hard on their gear, that like Marker, or it's Marker reps, Marker athletes and Marker reps. It's just chintzy, that binding. And I don't want to say that it's something it isn't, so I can't remember exactly what the reason is for the recall, but it was something significant. It was like the toe piece was failing on them, and I'm pretty sure that that's the reason. Otherwise, I wouldn't even mention that. I've said for a long time, like I think that Dynafit binding, I think that new Solomon shift that's coming out, which I'm sure we'll end up doing a bit on, like that binding is incredible. Like that's a binding that you can definitely get behind. Dynafit, like I said, has been making bindings since the beginning. Like they are the originator of that pin binding, and they're the reason that it exists. And they're honestly, if it's not a Dynafit approved norm and your boot has inserts and fittings, it's probably not the best boot to be running for a pin binding. G3 is okay. I've saw somebody say like, oh, G3 bindings are way better than markers, and I don't think that's necessarily true either. G3 makes a good binding, but so anyway, I'm glad that Kingpin's gone. I don't even know how I got on this. So what did I say? I just started. Okay. All right. Ethan's supposed to guide me through these and make sure that I don't go too far off topic, and he's doing a bad job. So that's, yeah, anyway, we'll get off the binding thing. Sorry, Marker, if anybody from Marker's listening, which I doubt. And if they are, just make a better binding, man. You guys are the biggest binding company. Like, you guys sell as many bindings as the other guys combined. Like, figure it out. Like, make a new Griffin with metal in it, like with metal on it, so it doesn't look so freaking chintzy. Make it not. All right, anyway, I'm going to get way off topic if we start talking about bindings. Anyway, so boots. Basically, we'll jump right into this boot here. So one of the main things to talk about here is the fact that it has a walk mode. That's all well and good, right? Like every boot has a walk mode now. It seems like everybody and their mother thinks they need a walk mode. You know, some companies are even calling them cocktail clips or walk modes instead of hike modes. This is a real walk mode. And the reason that I mention it is because from the outside, if you didn't really look into it, like the boot looks like a regular boot, right? There's no hinges on the back where it normally is. The walk mode is actually on the side. It's hooked up by a little cable actuated bit. You open this here, you open your walk mode. You can hook all these in here. It's easier when there's a foot in it, but that boot like completely free heels. I'm afraid to like take down this whole system here, and then we'll like knock some shit over. Damn it, knock something over, and then we'll have to restart this whole deal. But so the reason that I kind of there's a couple things. I like this walk mode because it is really easy for people to use, right? You know, like it's literally right where your buckle is. So in theory, you don't forget to do it. You don't forget to leave or close your walk mode. Most people have that issue. Like I have that issue where like I'll start skiing again and I'll completely forget my walk mode. And then all of a sudden, like I'm like literally skiing on my tails. That's actually what happened when I tore my ACL to start. Like I was skiing along and I like had my walk mode on still. So then like I got hooked in my brakes and I couldn't pull forward enough because I was so far back. So I couldn't reset myself because my walk mode's open. So don't ever let anybody tell you that a walk mode's only a good thing. Like you can definitely screw yourself up pretty good. That's not why I tore my ACL, but it definitely contributed to that whole process. I think I was just I didn't feel good that morning anyway. But yeah, so I think it's a good and a bad thing, right? That it's right here. My thing is that I actually forget that it's here. Like I buckle my boot like I would any other time, and I just forget that this hinge is here because I'm not used to boots that have it. There are a couple boots that are going to have it on the side for next year, like the new Dynafit Hoji boot, which is getting a lot of write-ups and a lot of good press so far, has a very similar design on it like this. So the walk mode's cool. I mean, it's like I said, it's a plus and a minus. I think for a lot of people, it'll be a good thing. I do like it. I'd be interested to see what it's like after 100 days and how this cable still performs, after a long time. And honestly, I don't know how much of a pain it is. I'm sure somebody from Fischer's going to reach out and tell me that I'm dumb and it's super easy to change this cable if it breaks. I can't imagine that it would break. What I would think is that it would wear out. It's a regular cable. You're not using it as much as you use regular cable, but I'd be interested to see what the lifetime expectancy is on a cable like that, you know, and if you have to replace something like that. But I'm sure we'll see more and more coming out about that. It's a brand new boot for 2019. It's completely redesigned. The old Ranger sucked. Well, that didn't suck, but you know, it wasn't the same boot. This is actually a really, really, and going to be a really, really competitive boot. It's stiff. It's comfortable. It's lightweight. I think they have it weighing in at, it's like 1,550 grams, which doesn't make any sense in the real world, but it's light. It's really light. The other boot that we're going to talk about that's super light is 1320, which is the Tecnica 0G, which I would argue just doesn't, it's not a better skiing boot, but it's a lighter boot. It's a better AT boot. That's kind of Fischer's goal here, right? Is like they have lighter boots. This is just supposed to be a boot that skis really well in addition to being lightweight. So it is that boot for that guy that wants to be able to go ski some back bowl stuff, wants to be able to hike some stuff, wants to be able to go to Tuckerman's in the spring, wants to be able to go anywhere on the mountain, basically. It's super easy. It's super efficient. You don't really it is really easy to find this little walk mode thing. One of the other things that we can talk about with this boot is the soles, which is a Vibram sole. They use grip walk, which is what Marker uses. It's Marker's technology. I'm thinking it's going to be on everything pretty soon. They're definitely winning that battle in terms of what it's going to be for boot norms coming forward. There's a bunch of different boot norms. They were calling them I forget what that, Rozzy was calling it walk to ride, or Look was calling it walk to ride for a while. Marker's pushing grip walk. But I think grip walk's kind of been decided on. That's something that Marker did well, figuring out grip walk. It's easier. All Marker bindings will have it going forward. It just works well. Basically what it is, it's a norm that allows you to walk a little more naturally in your boot. And it also allows a boot with tech fittings in this particular case, which are these little metal things, for those of you that don't know, on the back and on the side here. It basically allows you to use your tech boot, your hiking boot, in a regular binding that has grip walk capabilities, which is cool. I think it's nice. I really don't like, and I talk about this with bike all the time, I hate when there's 75 different norms. I think it's a stupid thing. They should get rid of all the norms. With bikes, there's you got boost spacing, you got this kind of spacing, you got 19 different kinds of spacing, and for what reason, dude? There's zero reason. I can tell you that for a fact. That we all need 97 different norms that we all need to memorize and figure out what skewer we need or figure out what spacing we need to run on this wheel. Bike industry is way worse than ski. Well, I guess I can't even just say that. They're both really, really, really bad in terms of just making new norms and just making new stuff up. That's kind of why I like that new Solomon shift binding. You know, I think that binding's cool because it combines norms. It doesn't make a new norm that's so revolutionary. Everybody makes something revolutionary every 3 days. And it's getting harder and harder to tell what's actually going to change things and what's going to be the exact same. That's one of the things that really gets me riled up. And you'll see it when I talk to customers in the store, when I talk to people on the phone, even on this show. I just think it's so dumb to make things more complicated in sports that already have things that are so complicated. Your bike is so technical. The thing is so expensive, and we need to add more things to make it more complicated for what? For what reason? They're tools to go have fun and enjoy what you're doing, right? And to get outside. They're not you don't need to geek out on every aspect of everything. There should be a way that you can get the optimum performance and not have to change the norm every 5 days. We should be working within certain parameters, I think. And I don't mean that, I guess I should clarify that because it's important to have progression in sports like this, right? You always want things to be easier. Walk to ride, the big pitch was it makes it easier to walk. So your regular everyday customer isn't walking heel toe. You can walk, or not heel toe, like you can walk heel toe basically. You can walk like a normal boot. But honestly, like it was such a small difference. Like, yeah, is it easier to walk? 100% it's easier to walk. Is it 2% easier to walk? Maybe it's 5% easier to walk. It's not that much easier to walk to the point where like we need to now change the norms on bindings. Like, I just think that that's a stupid way to do it. Like, but anyway, goddamn, I don't know how I get on these little rants about norms and that stuff, but like it really is an issue, like where, and I think somebody needs to hear it, like within the industry, like the people and the engineers that are making this stuff. We don't need another norm, right? We just need gear that works really well, and we need gear that's going to work for a long time and that's going to work consistently. So I don't know. Maybe somebody will listen to me and we'll figure it out eventually, and then things will be, or I'll be wrong. I don't know. That's totally possible too. Maybe we need all the norms and that's the only solution to this. But anyway, yeah. So this boot it's sick. I actually really like it. I don't really have a lot of issues with it, I think. I do think it's a little expensive. Not even necessarily this one. This one's $7.99, which is MAP, and we'll touch on MAP really in a minute, but it's $7.99, which is MAP, which is the low retail price. That's not crazy for a high-end boot, especially one with a walk mode and tech fittings and all that stuff. It's actually pretty good, especially one that's a full PU shell, full poly shell. Like, I mean, it's actually a pretty good deal for what it is. But with boots, it seems like we're creeping up more and more and more to that $1,000 mark, like for regular boot companies, you know, and I don't mean that like that Dodge boot that's $2,000. Like, yes, there's always somebody that needs that boot, right? Like there's bomber skis out there that Bodie makes that are like $2.5 bajillion each set of skis you want, you know? There's something to be said for people that buy stuff just because it's exclusive and not because it's any better. I think Renown's one of those companies too. I mean, I shouldn't just talk a bunch of crap, I guess. I don't know. I haven't skied a Renown ski. The idea is ridiculous to me. Anyway, this is not about that. So basically the difference between MAP and MSRP is manufacturer's suggested retail price. So that's like the high retail price. That's what people used to sell ski boots for, and that's what still some shops sell boots for. Like your local mom and pop, that's like a small shop that just does specific work, like service work, boot fitting, you know, on mountain shops like that. A lot of time we'll say like, okay, we're just selling at MSRP. Like, and that's because the retailer's margin is based off of MSRP. It's not based off of the lower MAP pricing. So their money, the money that they make, their sustained margin is based off of that high price. Now, if you never sell anything at MSRP, which we don't, I mean, and honestly, 99% of the shops probably at this point don't. I had a conversation with someone when I was in Portland, or when I was at Hood last year for the K2 test. Someone was saying, I can't remember what shop it was in Aspen, that they charge MSRP because they are a specific, they sell like 20 boots. Like there's 20 different boot models on the wall, right? So their niche is taking a boot and making it work for you, kind of. It's like they won't have a boot for $300 that you need. But if you want this boot and they have it, they'll make it work for your foot, right? Like they'll spend hours with each customer. It's a great shop, and he's a super smart dude. Like I actually really enjoyed talking to him, but he's so set on having an MSRP that it's a little nerve-wracking to me, I guess, that people still do that. Like they still, like they're not finding other ways to make, like charge for your boot fitting, you know, that's fine. Like I realistically think that's fine. If you're going to spend 2 hours with a boot fitter, that dude deserves to get paid, like no question, especially because 90% of the time that boot fitter's not the guy that's taking home the check, right? At the end of the day, like if you buy that boot, you're not, so I'm Joe that works at bike shop, right? Like, or ski shop, right? And I'm fitting your boot for 2 hours. I just spent 2 hours with you. I'm still making my regular pay. You know, most ski shops, and I would say the vast majority are not commission based. And they're not, sometimes they are with like, you'll see it a lot with like insoles. So like if they sell you an insole, some more shops are commission based with insoles, not with other things. You know, and it depends on the shop. That's not the norm even, I don't think. But that is a case. I've never heard of people being regular retail employees being paid based on how many boots they sell. A, because that's a really terrible way to sell boots, because then you're incentivizing the employee to put somebody in a boot just to put them in a boot. And B, you're then not spending the time that the customer really needs to fit the boot. Boots are weird. Like people always say like boot fitting's an art craft and all. And I think a lot of it's kind of mumbo jumbo and a lot of it's like dark arts kind of stuff. And like, but not a lot of it's really important. Like a lot of it's really, really big. And there's something to be said for that. Like, you're going to see a professional to do a professional job on something you care about. That dude deserves to get paid, right? So I just don't think that charging MSRP is the way for that dude to get paid. Maybe when it's a one-man operation and you're not charging for boot service, but I'm pretty sure he's charging for boot services too, in addition to charging MSRP. Anyway, so especially because of the internet, MAP and MSRP is kind of like the fake price that the car salesman gives you basically in the beginning, right? It's like, oh, this ski was $1,000. Like, it was really $1,000. Like, that's what our margin's based off of, but nobody pays $1,000. $1,000 is like if you came in, even if you came in and said, I need that ski, give it to me right now, I don't care how much it costs, we'd still charge you MAP, the lower price, which usually it's 10 to 15% difference, right? Like, I guess for a reference point. So that's why this boot is $799. I'm saying MAP. So the MSRP is probably $899 or $950. I think it actually is. It's weird how they even do that. I wish that they would just base the margins off of one price. Smaller companies tend to do that. Sego does that. Icelandic does that, where it's like one price. This is what the dealer's margin is based off of. This is what the consumer has to look at. But the bigger companies still do this smoke and mirrors kind of deal, where it's like, there's two prices for what? It's like doing $199 instead of $2. Like, does it really make a difference? What? Am I good? Okay. All right. We got to take a quick break, I guess. All right. And we're back. I was supposed to do that a little more incognito and not make it seem like I just like somebody was dying and I had to leave. But I mean, so nobody's dying. Everything's all good. We're just doing this for the YouTube thing. So we had to change out the little, what's that thing called? Micro SD card. That's what it is. Is that what we had to change? Memory card. I don't know. We had to change something so that we could keep recording this YouTube video. This is why I don't do the technical side of it. This is why we have Ethan. And, yeah, that's basically the deal. Anyway, so this is a nice boot. You should definitely look into it if you're looking for a boot that can do everything. I'm not going to say that much more about it. I feel like I didn't even really say anything about it, but I just rambled for half an hour. It's a good boot. It's worth trying on. Go to your local shop, put it on your foot. It's not a boot that I would buy online. And I only say, unless you know what your foot's like. If you're if you really know yourself and you know your foot and you know what it is, then sure, go for it. You know, we'll have it online. Go buy it at coloradoskishop.com. Or anywhere else. I don't really care if you buy it from us or not. So I guess we'll move to the next one. So the next one is totally not the same boot. It's the Full Tilt Ascendant. I wish I had brought one with me. I wish I had one on me. It's basically Full Tilt's attempt at making and I don't mean attempt in a bad way. It's their attempt at making a boot that can do everything, that's still a three-piece shell, that's a hike boot, that has pin inserts in it. It's actually really good for a first shot kind of at it. I know their customer has wanted it for a long time, wanted a three-piece shell boot with a walk mode on it, and they got it. I mean, it's really cool. It's not light. I mean, it's light, but it's not. It's 1860, which is 300 grams or so more than. Which 300 grams is not a ton, but it's significant. The boot doesn't feel light. You don't pick it up and go, "Wow," you know. It's light in comparison to like a car, but it's not light in comparison to a ski boot. You know. I really dig the color. If that's anything, I like the green. It's got like this army green. I don't really love the neon looking buckles, but like I don't really like them on this boot either, but important stuff. It's 120 flex, which Full Tilt runs a 2 through 10 system. Maybe they have a 12. I don't even know. Basically, the 10, which is what this Ascendant boot is 120 flex. It's a 102 last, so that mid or that forefoot area is a 102 millimeter last, which is just, again, it's the width in that forefoot. It does come with tech fittings, so you can use your Dynafit bindings. You can still use a regular norm boot or a regular norm binding. You can use your Griffins. You can use whatever. It's not really the same guy as the guy who buys this or the guy who buys a 0G. It's the guy who wants a full tilt, right? Who wants a 3-piece wraparound intuition liner, 3-piece shell wraparound intuition liner. Doesn't want shin bang, probably wants to bang around in the park a bit still, but wants to go explore, right? You know, you want to go hit jumps in the backcountry, right? You want to go off into the backcountry and ski in the trees with your friends. Like, that's how a lot of guys progress. Like, I'm seeing more and more of kids that I've never really been a huge park guy, but the guys that I knew growing up that were like really park guys are getting more and more and more into skiing in the woods and skiing in the backcountry and trying to find pockets of snow and just going and having fun and not necessarily just trying to kill rails. They're just trying to go out and do stuff, you know, like they're just trying to go out and see the whole mountain, which I think is really cool. Like, I mean, that's a natural progression of it. Of skiing in general, and I just think that boot really hits that market. It's $749, so it's not crazy expensive. I think it's priced well for a 120 flex boot. I think it's expensive for a full tilt, which I don't mean to be an insult, but I think sounds like an insult. Full tilt's full tilt, right? I mean, it's so for those of you that don't know what full tilt is, I guess we probably have some people that aren't really skiers that listen to this and that are just listening because they want to hear me talk shit about something. Damn it, dude. Want to hear me talk crap about something or whatever, or they just listen to it because they listen to it. I mean, that's cool too. I'm into anybody listening at this point. I think everybody should listen, even if you don't ski. Like, I don't know. Maybe not, actually. Don't listen to this episode if you don't ski at all. That's weird. Full Tilt's basically a company that it used to be called Reichly a long time ago. It got bought out and kind of reinvigorated by Jason Leventhal, who's the founder of Line Skis, or not necessarily just Jason Leventhal, but like between him and K2 Corp and pushing that boot heavy, they've kind of gained a niche in the freestyle world. And like for a long time, they were the only boot that you bought. And now it's them and DeBello really that you buy in that category. And for a short time when like Ian Compton was really big, Nordica was firing for like 2 or 3 years, and they had great boots in that range. They actually had some good skiers on that program, on that Nordica program, but like when they were doing Ace of Spades, but those boots were shitty. At this point, I'm pretty far gone. Sorry, Mom. But those boots sucked. They were not good boots. We still, hey, if anybody wants one, we still have some from 10 years ago, probably sitting in the basement. I mean, they just didn't fit well. They were ugly. They were the ugly. I will say this for an absolute fact. It is the single ugliest line of boots that has ever existed. They look like Batman villains. Like one looks like Freeze, one looks like Joker, and I don't think it was intended to do that. Like the Dead Money looks like a Joker boot. The Ace team looked like a Freeze boot. Like they all look like different kinds of popsicles. Like it was really stupid. But then they had the black ones, and the black ones were cool. Like they looked really good. Like they were really simple, and I was really happy for it. But they still fit horrible, and they weighed as much as my house. So anyway, so Full Tilt basically owns this market, right? They own this like freestyle kid, park kid, Corinthia Parks, Mount Hood, Timberline Lodge in the summer kind of kid. They own that market, right? And they have for a long time. And you can argue with me and say that DeBello's a better boot and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you know what? I think that Omoro is a better boot than a lot of the Full Tilts, but Full Tilt is committed to offering a boot that's better all around and committed to offering a line that's better and committed to offering a boot that's so specific to what their riders and what their customer wants. And I don't think any other boot company does that nearly as well as Full Tilt does. They have a pulse on what people want to hear, what they want to see. People were like talking a bunch of shit like, oh, we need metal buckles. They gave them metal buckles. Oh, we need a cheaper boot. They gave them a cheaper boot. Like, they're really good at doing this. And now they're doing it again where they're saying, okay, like, people want a boot they can hike in. Our customers getting older. How can we not lose market share? How can we still keep getting our old customer to still buy a boot? Because that's what happened, right? Like, everybody wanted a full tilt when they were 16. And then you become an adult and you really want to ski. Like, you want to ski hard. And that boot doesn't always do it, right? And it's not super comfortable. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Like, they're comfortable for the right person, right? For me, it's actually the most uncomfortable boot in the entire universe. Like, I personally cannot fit my foot. I've always wanted to ski in a full tilt since I was 14. And I never could. Like, it just straight up doesn't fit my foot. Like, I had first year 10s last year and I couldn't even buckle them. Like, I would flex them and I'd get weird pains in my shin. Like, anyway, this isn't about me, but this is like, the idea was that they were losing market share to people that wanted a more aggressive skiing boot, right? They wanted a boot that wasn't just for hot dogging and for like cruising around the park and for landing switch and for like not getting shin bang. They wanted a boot that actually really ripped. Like, and they wanted a boot that they could go off and do whatever with. The Ascendant's kind of that boot, and it's kind of that answer. I'm betting that we're going to see some lower level ones next year. Like, we're going to see some more all mountain-esque boots at like that $499 price point. I'm hoping we do. I think it's a great place for them to go next. You know, I realize that that's actually where most people buy their boots, right? Like, we always talk about in all the gear sites, and I'm guilty of this right now. You know, like, we're talking about an $800 boot, a $750 boot, and we're going to talk about a $900 boot. I bet out of the people that listen to this episode and the people that listen to this show in general, maybe 5 people are going to buy a boot that high end. Maybe 5. And that's like probably being generous. And maybe out of those 5, maybe 2 are going to pay retail. So the fact that we as an industry and as reviewers and as gear talkers and blah, 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 spend so much time on the high-end stuff, I think is a little dumb, but everybody wants to talk about the cool stuff. Like, you don't go online and look at pictures of Toyota Camrys. You go online and you look at pictures of Ferraris and then you buy a Toyota Camry, you know? But like, it's interesting, man. It's so weird. Isn't that weird how it works? Like, I don't know. It's really strange to me that like we spend so much time. And I think I mentioned this before. We spend a lot of time. And we did. On the last time I did a boot one, we did the same thing. We were talking about boots and I'm like, dude, like, this is dumb. Like, we should be talking about, one of these days I'll go and I'll bring in a few $199 boots. That's what we should do one of these days. We'll bring in a couple like $199 basic boots, bucket boots, and we'll talk about those. Anyway, I should write that down. I'll write it down. You don't even want to know what I wrote down as a reminder. So anyway, that boot's, I don't want to spend half an hour on this boot too. Otherwise Ethan would probably kill me. I think the person that this boot is for somebody that used to rock a full tilt or that wants a wider, more comfortable boot with a walk mode and with pin inserts, right? But doesn't necessarily always hike. You know, and there's a lot of those guys out there, myself included sometimes, especially like 2 years ago, like I really wanted a pin boot, right? And I was doing almost no hiking. And did I need a pin boot? No. Did I want one? Yeah. Why? Because everybody has one. That's what's cool. You're much less limited. For the one day that I went in 2016, 2017, whatever, it would be worth it. So I think it's for somebody like that. I do think it's expensive. I think $749 is a lot for a full tilt customer. I think that's how this whole thing started, was like I said, I don't mean it as an insult. But I mean their customer is limited, right? Like, they have a limited base that really knows about them. They have a limited base that actually buys their boots. So I think that if this boot was $549 or $649, like a regular Descendant, which is their regular all mountain 102 last boots, you could sell it all day. We brought a few in. I'm interested to see how they sell. I bet we end up selling most of them online. I bet we hardly sell any in store. We'll see if I'm right. Maybe if I remember, I'll let you know at some point. Like if we end up selling a shit ton of them and I'm wrong, great. If we end up selling 0, then I don't think we're going to sell 0. I think we're going to sell out of them. I just think we're going to sell out of them slow. We didn't order a ton, so I hope we don't sell out of them immediately, but then I'll be wrong and I'll be, well, yeah, I was going to say I was going to be broke, but it's not really me that ends up broke. Yeah, I think it's a boot worth looking at. I'll put up some images on the out of blog section of the website, so definitely check those out. A quick plug there for the blog part. That's going to be heating up over the next couple months. We'll have full reviews. We actually have one on the Bronson and the 5010. There's a little bit more in-depth kind of talk about that stuff. So definitely check that out. Get the views up on that thing. outofpodcast.com/outofblog. But yeah, so I'll put some pictures up. You can tell me what you think. I think it's a really good first attempt. And I think it's worth trying. I think if it fits your foot good, like if you put that boot on, you're like, this is comfortable, man. Like, buy it because it's a good boot. My worry is that it's not going to fit everybody. My worry is that it's expensive. My worry is that even though I like the color, the person that would normally buy that boot will not like the color. It's really green. It's cool, but it's green. K2 just had that same color on a Pinnacle, their hike boot from last year and the year before, and I liked it again. Really liked it a lot. It was actually my favorite color of any boot, and we had a hard time selling them. So anyway, that's that boot. $749, 102 last, 120 flex. It's a dope boot. Definitely check it out. And that's basically that one. The last boot that I'm really going to dive into, we'll talk about a couple random ones and we'll talk about some other random stuff at the end of this. But the last one that I want to talk about specifically is the 0G from Tecnica. So I've always been a big Tecnica fan. I think if I had to pick a boot company, so I guess there's two ways to put this. If I had to pick a boot company that always fits my foot and always has what I want, it's Tecnica. If I had to pick a boot company that always fits my foot but doesn't always have what I want, it's Salomon. If I had to pick a boot company that I want but almost never fits my foot, it's Lang. So it's interesting to me that they have a boot like this. It looks like a Fischer, like it looks like one of Fischer's touring boots kind of, where it looks really, really tech, like it looks really Euro, it looks really high end, and it is high end. I mean, the boot's $899 MAP, which again, that's that low retail price, which means it's over $1,000 in real pricing or fake pricing or whatever. Hopefully somebody else thinks that that's dumb too, that double pricing thing. They don't do it with bike companies anymore. They do it with some. They don't do it with as many, but they do it with some. Like I'm just thinking from Santa Cruz. Like Santa Cruz doesn't do it because they're an intelligent company, but other companies still do it. I really would love to see. I don't care if this boot's $1,000. Just tell the customer it's $1,000. Like you're getting $1,000 worth of boot, or base the retailer's margin off of that low price so I can take it off the freaking sticker. You know, like that's the thing. Is like you as the customer think that you're not getting as good of a deal, right? Because you're getting 10% off, right? That lower price that everybody sees. When in reality, we're giving you 20% of our margin. That's like my public service announcement, I guess, for the sake of all the shops. It's important to be aware of what the shop has to deal with, I guess, right? Like, because why would a shop want to help you out a bunch if they're not making any money on the boot and they have to spend a ton of time with you that, again, they're not getting paid for? Like, as much as shop guys, I think ski shop guys more than almost any other profession do it because they really, really love it, right? Like, that's what they like doing. That's what they enjoy doing. Why else would you want to stick plastic things on people's gross feet all day? Like, I mean, unless you really enjoyed doing it and you enjoyed seeing other people happy on the hill. Like that's actually like one of the only reasons, like when it's, especially like during Christmas season, during Black Friday, or even during the summer when it's slower, I don't enjoy it day to day. Like I think it's dumb most of the time. Like I'm like, why am I here? I could be riding my bike. Why am I here? I could be skiing. Why am I here? But it takes like fitting somebody and them really enjoying it, or selling somebody a ski that it actually makes a difference in their skiing, or like I say this and I hope people know that I mean it. I don't like selling people things just to sell them something. I think it's really a bad way to sell things. And that's kind of always been my philosophy. And that's actually why I think that I sell a lot of stuff. And that's why I think that I'm good at sales, is because I don't really care if you buy the nicest thing in the store. I care that you buy the thing that makes the most sense for you. Because if you buy that thing just because you heard about it and because I said to buy it, then if it doesn't work, you're coming back and you're upset with me, my recommendation's bad, and I end up having to deal with way more headaches anyway, and your experience didn't get any better. If you are genuinely just looking for my opinion on things, then I'm entitled to give you my opinion, right? Because you asked for it. But my opinion, and any sales guy's opinion that's actually a good salesperson, shouldn't be telling you to buy something just because either A, they make more money on it, or B, they want to make a big sale. Like, even if that's always the thing too, is like, oh, I sold 10 pairs of skis. Like, who cares, dude? Like, really? Like, I'm happy, like, great, like, sick, but like, it's more important to me that you get 10 people in there that are happy that they got new stuff. That's kind of oh, I'm so much holier than all the other salespeople. Like, I don't really actually think that, but like, I do really think that it's important for salespeople to take that burden, kind of like, it's your responsibility to put people in things that are important, right? It's your responsibility to know the gear. It's your responsibility. And yeah, you're underpaid, probably, like, for shop guys, like, you're totally underpaid, like, for what you do. And your boss knows it, and the shop owner knows it, and the guy working next to you knows it. Everybody is, dude. That's why you work in an industry where you just get to have fun. That's why you work in an industry where, like, your days off, you're going skiing. That's why you work in an industry when, like, that you get to go on ski days, right? Like, you get to go try the newest gear. You get to talk about the newest gear all the time. You get to be in an environment where all the stuff you wanted to play with, like, is around you. That's pretty good in itself, and that's definitely a plus. I don't know how the hell I got this far off from this boot. What was I even saying? How did I start on this? Do you remember? Price, and then I started going off on the price thing again. All right, so I haven't talked about anything with this boot other than it looks super European. Shout out to Dana Greenwood for getting me all this information. So I have every bit of information that you could possibly ever want on this new boot, except for the boot, which we'll work on getting one of those in here. So it only weighs 1,320 grams. It's a touring boot. It's not a half touring boot. It's not a do everything boot. It's a touring boot. Like, you buy this boot if you tour a good amount of the time. Like, you should not be buying this boot point blank if you don't tour. Like, I mean, if you're not going ski touring, if you're not spending a good amount of time going uphill, then don't buy this boot. Like, I mean, straight up, don't buy. Is it nice? Is it light? Do you have extra money to just buy a pair of boots? Go for it. Buy 10. I don't care. It says here it makes it second to none in downhill performance. I don't think that's true. I think that it's second to none in terms of Gorilla Mid boots, which is the material that they make, which is stiffer and lighter. It's just more expensive. That's part of the reason the boot's so expensive. I don't think it's the best downhill skiing boot, and that's a ridiculous claim for them to make. I just don't think that they mean it like that. That's what it says on this thing, but I think it's probably the best. I haven't skied it yet, again, so take this with a grain of salt. I think it's, in theory, based on how it's built and how it's constructed and how it looks. I mean, you can tell how a boot's going to ski a lot of the time by the way it looks. Based on all of those things, this boot will ski phenomenally for a touring boot. But again, there's that contingency, right, where it's a touring boot. Like, this is a touring boot that also goes downhill. That's the purpose of this boot. That's why it skis really well. That's why it looks like it skis really well. That's why it looks like a regular boot, with the exception of this doohickey right here. So, I do want to address that. I'm not picking on them. I think that anybody would say that. Anybody that had a boot like this would say this. I think the buckles are weird. They're like those, like, cable style buckles where they're, like, definitely more touring specific. So those would be a pain if you just wanted to ski resort all the time. That walk mode latch. All right. I don't have a thing. So if you can see that, great. I know you can't, but I'll put a picture of it on the blog. It is ridiculously big for something that is so lightweight. So I don't even know how they did that. The boot looks super cool. The boot is super lightweight. It's super stiff. Like I said, it's a Grillamid lower cuff. It's a carbon, or it's a Grillamid lower shell. It's a carbon upper cuff. Basically, what that means is the boot's stiff. It's stiff torsionally. It's lightweight, so it's going to ski well. I mean, that's straight up what it is. The boot's expensive. It's completely redesigned for this year. This is my biggest pet peeve with boots and with anything, actually. I hate when companies name things like Pro and Scout. Like this is the Zero G Tour Pro. Too many words, man. Like that's too many words. Like that's one less word, maybe two less word than you needed. You could have just said Zero G 130. Like, and that's it. Why does it need to be Tour Pro? Do we have a regular Zero G? I don't freaking think so. Like, I don't see it. Like, is it not like, is it a magic boot that just disappears? I don't like that. Just call it a 130. And that's the other thing too, is like, I'm customer, right? I have no idea I'm not customer, I'm me, and I have zero clue what any of these, other than taking an educated guess, I have no idea what any of these are flexing in at from the look of them, right? I mean, when you're holding the boot, maybe it says it on it, probably says it on it, but like Zero G Tour, this is what, 100? It's 110. See, like, I mean, I think that's pretty light, dude. That's the 110 is how much? That's still expensive. $699. It's still lighter than this thing. It's $1,505. It's pretty close to that one, but it's still like that's super light for a $699 boot. Like that's good on you guys, Tecnica. So one of the things that I like most, I think, about Tecnica is that, anyway, I don't want that point to be forgotten. Rename the boots, make them 110, 120, 130. Please fix that. I'm begging you, because the customer does not relate to that. I don't want them to think that I'm like just picking on them, because I'm not. And I think all the guys think that me and my father actually were both picking on them at the trade show last year because of this reason or that reason, or you should have done this better. And like, I know I hate those people too. This is a big thing, I think, for customers, like, because every other boot on the wall says 110, 130, right? Like, why do you have to do that to the point on a boot like this that's so important in your line? I mean, and again, I know you're not doing a million units of it, but it's an important boot because that customer really represents a lot of what that brand represents, because they're your higher end customer. They're your guys that are out there using the product all the time. There should be a number associated with that boot. And it's one of the reasons that I don't like the way that Full Tilt does their flex system, but I get the way they have to do it because it's not a traditional flex system. You guys have a traditional flex. It's written in the description. Just put it on the boot and I'm not saying add it, because then there's another freaking word that you have on there that you don't need. It doesn't need to be called, like Specialized does that too, dude. Why does this need to be called Camber Pro, Camber Epic, Camber whatever? Nobody knows which one's better. Well, like, how is Pro or Epic or Pro or whatever? What are the other ones called? Pro, Expert, Elite, which one's better than what? Like, how do I know that as a customer? Like, I have to look at the components and tell. Like, I mean, but if you're not an educated person in this matter, which I wouldn't expect you to be, like, if you are, then you're either A, a gear nerd, which is fine, or B, you're just spending way too much time looking at product and not enough time using the product. I don't know, just rename it. Overall, I think it's a really good boot. I like the way it looks. I like the way it's shaped. Like, I felt it. I tried it on at the trade show. Somebody asked me what a trade show was a couple weeks ago, so I'll touch on that, I guess, at some point too. Anyway, I think the boot's really good. One of the things that I like most about Tecnica is that they give you a good amount of toe room. Like, your toe box has a good amount of room, but the boot still fits really well. It's a narrow heel pocket. It's one of the things that Lang does really well too, is that their heel pocket's really narrow. Like, I've never had an issue in a Lang boot where like my heel was sliding out. Like, my heel is locked in. I have a skinny heel, skinny Achilles. Like, my heel always comes out of boots. They're usually really good. And this is no different. It fits really good. Tecnica is one of the companies, like I said, that I really respect the way that they the way that they make boots, and I've always liked the way they make boots. There's a lot of boot companies out there, right? And everybody does something really well. Somebody had mentioned to me that DeBello makes really good boots, and we should talk. I think it was. Let me look real quick. Quick shout out, real quick. We got to do a break in a second here. I'm gonna figure this out, and we'll do a quick break. Sorry, I keep talking too much. All right, we're good. Veronica Bell Paulson, shout out Veronica Bell, said, talk about DeBello boots. Like, she loves hers. DeBello boots are great, Like, I just don't particularly like DeBello boots myself. Like, I like them. I think they make a good boot. I think that new DRS boot is sick. They've never fit me, and I've always felt like they're really, like, the shell's too big almost. Like, there's too much meat in the shell. The new boot, that's an exception. The new boot's better. It's way lower volume. It's like that K2 Recon. It's the same idea. I'm betting those guys talk to each other since it's the same company. But there's just so many boot companies, man. Like, it's not about boot company, I don't think. I think what it's about more than anything is what fits your foot. Like, but I get hooked up in that, like I said at the beginning of this little bit. Like, I like Tecnica. I like Lang. I like Solomon. Like, I'm biased to those brands. So, know that when you come in and you talk to me about boots, like, I'm biased personally to those brands because they fit my foot and I know they fit other people's feet. Nordica too. I shouldn't leave Nordica out of there. I like a lot of the boots. I just don't like that new Strider boot at all. One, because it's expensive. Two, because why do we need to collab with Michelin? Like, are we a car company now? Or, like, what's with that? Like, have you seen that? Like, Ride Snowboard Boots has it. There's a bunch of companies that have it. Like, okay, it's not that much better. I was going to ask if it's that much better to you guys, but I know it's not that much better than Vibram or Vibram or any of these companies. So why are we, like, pretending that it's like going to make the boot way better? You're just paying more for that name. It's dumb. And I just don't like when companies do that. And I think that walk mode on that boot is dumb as shit. But the boot skis well, and it fits good, and it actually fits my foot pretty well, and I've got no other. Well, I just mentioned 3 issues, and I'm about to say, like, I have no real issues with it. Like, I like that boot, but there's better boots on the wall, I think, for what, but there's always somebody for that specific boot, right? Like, and that's why you can't ever say, like, I can never tell you a boot's shitty. Like, I can never say this boot's a bad boot, right? Because there's probably thousands of people that really love that boot and it fits their foot great, because everybody's feet are so different. That out of the box fit that I talked about in the beginning that's so important could be perfect for that customer. So that's something to keep in mind, I guess. Anyway, on this particular boot, I think that's really all I have. I like, as always, it seems like the second one down, the second flex down is always the color I like the best. It's like a super green instead of this, like, carbon and yellow. The carbon and yellow is pretty baller too, but I don't know. What else? Anything notable here? I'm not very nice. I'm reading off a list here while people are listening to this, and that's probably not as exciting as no canting. That's interesting. No cuff alignment. CAS shell. CAS is like their system that they use to get the for shell work and stuff. Yeah. It's a boot you can spend all day on. It is a real ski boot. It's not just a hike boot. It's a hike boot that you can ski in versus this being a ski boot that you can hike in. I think that's kind of an important determination, and the full tilt's a full tilt that you can hike in and maybe ski in. I don't know why I laughed at that. I'm the only one that's going to laugh at that. Anyway, I've been drinking Full Throttles lately, and it's disgusting. They taste like candy if candy was in a drink, and I told myself I was going to be drinking less sugar, but there's 58 grams of sugar in this thing. It's like, it's so bad, but I was tired. I was very tired this morning, and I don't know. I don't even know why I thought to mention that. All right. So a couple of things I think we should probably touch on. Someone asked me what a trade show is. Trade show is basically when we do our buys for the season. We don't necessarily write our orders there. Like, we're not sitting there furiously writing down numbers. I mean, at one point, people used to write their orders before there was computers and the internet. People used to write their orders there. But you also used to do all your shopping not on the computer. So things change. I had other notes here. I did a good job writing down notes today, actually, so I just don't want to forget anything. A trade show basically is where you go and you look at the new product, right? There's 4 or 5 of them during a season. Same thing with bike season. There's a bunch of different ones. Less so with bike season, Interbike, and the bike test are the main ones for, and Sea Otter, I guess, is technically a trade show. I don't really look at it the same way. Like, it's mostly for just dealers that are out in that area. Trade shows for ski are actually, I would argue, more important because they're not just about going and seeing people you don't usually see and having a good time, right? They're actually looking at product, diving into product, figuring out what's going to be done. So you go there and it's like all the ski companies, snowboard companies, accessory companies are all under one roof. There's one in Providence. There's one in Boxborough, Mass, I think, unless it changed. One in Manchester. One in, obviously the big one is in SIA, is that Outdoor Retailer in Colorado, which we had some content from last year. That's where we had a bunch of shows last year out there that we did with a bunch of good people. They're basically just to go and figure out what gear is going to be hot, what gear people are going to want to buy, how much of what you can buy there, and to get deals on stuff and to kind of set yourself up for the season ahead. Like, we do all that stuff. Like, we know what we're buying, what's going to get shipped to us in September, in March, basically. Sometimes earlier, sometimes later. Depends on what kind of mood we're in, I guess. And that's the case with most shops. That's like where everybody goes. Like, we're not special in that regard. Everybody goes to everyone. Not every shop goes to the big shows. Almost every shop goes to the local shows, but it's the big shows just kind of have everything. Like, they'll have the small companies that, like, they'll have Sego, or they'll have Icelandic in its full capacity, or one of those companies. And it's really cool. I love the trade shows. Like, I hate them after like 3 hours. I think it's the worst thing, like, in the entire world. Like, I just want to punch everybody in the face and I don't want to talk to anybody. And I'm pretty sure I tell all of them that. And then I'm pretty sure they also don't want to talk to me. And so, like, make it shorter, make it like 2 days, instead of like 5 days. How about that? I feel bad for the reps, because those guys, the company reps, have to go and sit there for forever. And just listen to, if it's, especially on years when it's bad, dude. I cannot imagine what it's like being a rep on a year when it doesn't snow before Christmas or even after Christmas, and being at a trade show and asking people, oh, how's your season going? And everybody and their mother is like, oh, it's horrible. Oh, there's no, like, that would be so depressing to just sit there for weeks and weeks, for a week probably, and then a separate week, and just hear how miserable everybody is. That sucks, unless you just don't care. In which case, you probably deserve to hear how much it sucks. That would bother the crap out of me, and that's basically what the shows have been like, especially the early show for the last few years. But yeah, that's basically what a trade show is. Did I even explain it? I don't even know if I actually explained it. I had other notes and stuff I was going to talk about, but apparently I just got a bunch of blank pages, and then I got some Learn to Ride events that are coming for the shop that's here. Big E stuff. I'm just reading through my notes now. Some people that are coming on. Shout out J-Nox. J-Nox is going to be on in the next few weeks. Hopefully some guys from K2 will be on in the next few weeks. Looking forward to do a bunch of different podcasts. Let's see who we got here, actually. Mike Gerard, and we need to get together. That dude's was in Costa Rica, and I think it's Costa Rica, and he does the Mass Skate Festival. I want to say that it's called that, but it's dope. He does a kick-ass job with that thing, and I'd love to get that dude on. J-Nox is from Peak Resorts, and he's just a good dude. He's a photographer and social media dude, and works with Yakima in some capacity. We'll have to ask him about that. Scott Chrisman, That dude's cool. We'll have to get him on. We have him on later in the month. And that's kind of the deal. I don't really think there's anything particularly important. Did I say anything before this that I needed to talk about? I don't think so. So basically the gist of this is like, these are the 3 boots, right? Like there's a million other boots. I'm sure we'll do another boot talk. I'd like to do one with Miss Alex Ross, but it might not be till September, October. I think the important thing, as I'm like half reading these notes, the important thing to kind of keep in mind here is like boots are really subjective. Like it's person to person. You need to try something on. Like you need to go and get fitted. Oh shit. Yeah, we have some social media stuff I should probably mention while we're on here. Like some people that I got to pick that won cups, won one of these silly pints. I should probably pick a few right now, huh? I think I said I'd give away 5. Anyway, so yeah, boots are important. Definitely try them on. It actually is a big deal. Like you need to get on it. Hang on real quick. I'm just taking pictures for the gram right now, so on the YouTube. So if you're on the YouTube right now, you get to see what it looks like when you're taking a bunch of Instagram pictures. In case you didn't know, I'm sure you knew what it looks like to take a bunch of Instagram pictures because everybody does. Follow us on Instagram if you don't yet, and that's at Out of Podcast, and our website is outofpodcast.com. We also have a Twitter, which I'm so bad at doing. I'm getting better at the Facebook, so find us on Facebook. It's just the Out of Bounds Podcast. What else? What other things are we on? iTunes, leave us reviews, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm going to do that bit in a minute here. Let me pick some people that won some stuff. I already know 2 of them. 2 of them are local. Lucky them. Lucky me, because I don't have to ship them as far. Janelle Boratko, if I'm saying your name right. Janelle Boratko, you won stickers and a mug. Victoria, I don't know Victoria's last name. It just says Victoria2923. Victoria wins some. Danielle Roma. And I did this and I wrote it down, but I can't find where I wrote it down. Nate Toomey. We'll do Nate Toomey. And I'll leave 1 for imagination, I guess. Right? We could do 1 and leave it. Or I'll just do it now. Adam Wurr. Adam Wurr. Shout out to Adam Wurr if you got a cup coming your way and some stickers and stuff. You got a bunch of people, won some stuff. You got 5 total that won. We'll put out 1 as soon as you guys get your stuff. Post it up on the gram. Tag us. We will repost it, and that'll be our proof that we're actually sending out some cups to people, and people are actually winning some stuff. But we'll have some pretty crazy giveaways in late August and September, like some good, like not just our stuff. Like as much as I like our stuff, like I know you guys want like real stuff too. Like that's kind of the deal. I know I'm just rambling at this point. Anyway, so follow us on Instagram, Out of Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and review all of the pages on YouTube and on blah, 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 blah. The YouTube page is just brand new. There's only going to be the last Santa Cruz video and this video on there so far. This video, you can at least see what the Fischer boot looks like and kind of take a peek at some of the details on it. See the sweet new bomber strap. Shout out Bomber Strap. I appreciate them. They're a sponsor of this episode. They sent me one of these things, and I'm going to do a quick little bit on that you'll probably hear in the beginning of this, and then this will be like backtracking, so you'll know in which order we recorded this today. Anyway, subscribe to the show, leave us a review. We always appreciate that. iTunes, iHeartRadio, on our website, whatever. Leave us some feedback. It's adam@outofpodcast.com. If you want to send me an email, feel free. I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you'd like to hear more of. Let me know what you would like to see me talk more about. Let me know what I'm doing wrong and what I could be doing better. I've actually gotten some good criticism so far, constructive criticism that has actually helped, I think, in the way that I'm doing things. And it's showing. I mean, the show's actually growing. Like, it's showing real growth. So tell your friends. I mean, let it keep growing. You got it first, like you're here. So I don't think I have anything else important to say. So appreciate it. Sorry, that was very long-winded. Thanks for listening, guys.